and welcome to another CEF Tech Talking podcast. We're doing a few of these now, Dave, aren't we?
It's becoming a bit of a tradition now, isn't it? At the end of an event, just before the set gets taken down, we
quickly.
get together with a mate and we talk about something interesting.
Yeah, and today we're joined by Dave. Dave, please, for the camera and for everything else, confirm your name, rank and number.
Yeah, I'm Dave Clark. I work for Electrium Sales Limited. I'm one of the regional sales managers on the installation and contracting side of the business.
Right, so we need to understand then.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, Dave. When we talked about doing this, I said, tell me about Electrium, because I don't really know what they do. Who are Electrium?
I had to tell him who Electrium was. Can you tell us who Electrium are,
okay.
please?
So a quick synopsis. So you've got Electrium is owned by Siemens as a group of companies. Electrium is the holding company, and the individual brands, which are what people will recognise, are the Wylex brand, Crabtree brand, the Volex brand, the Appleby brand.
Some of the historic
some really
brands.
established
oh,
brands in the
massively,
industry,
yeah. Now you knew them as soon as I mentioned
knew them
them.
immediately.
He knew who they were. They're all in his
So
house.
they were all pulled them together under Electrium, were they?
They're all part of the Electrium family. They've got some traditional brands, as you know, and some of the length of the brands as well. You know, you've got Wylex and Crabtree with over 100 years heritage. Going all the way back from rewireables, V-breakers, all the way up through the ranges.
So you now represent all of them, do you?
I do, yeah.
So you've got all logos. You're like Lewis Hamilton here. You've got it all on. You've got them all on. All the brands are on you, mate. So now I know when we first started talking about some of these new technology, Daves, that we started to saw way back in a previous life, we spoke about AFDDs and when they were sort of coming in. You guys were first to market with a lot of this, weren't you?
Well, because all my reference stuff was from Schneider when I started to research AFDDs when we did the 18th. So where does it all come from? Where does it all come from?
Yeah, so obviously the parent company being Siemens, the technologies come from the Siemens platform.
Yeah.
So the device.
You said Schneider, you meant Siemens. It's all right. It's all right, mate. Don't worry. Don't upset the guests. Yes.
There's always one.
Now, I used to use it as well because your stuff really was the only stuff out there.
Yeah.
So Siemens had it, and then they let it come down to you guys in the brands, did they?
It did, yeah. So in European countries, the products were developed and brought to market. So they've already been out in certain locations around European markets. Where
Germany was big, wasn't it?
Yeah, Germany for one.
Yeah,
and
some of the early adopters of it, weren't they?
Yeah, so that technology was obviously come across to the sister company, being under the Electrium banner and branded under the Wylex and the Crabtree platform products. So they've come to market. We've had them into the market for over 2 years now. So there's been a lot of products installed.
So I remember you had the AFDDs combined with the separate protected device, but you were also first to market with the one module, were you not?
We were, yeah. So again,
you've got one to show us here. So here we go.
It's a little bit small. You might not be able to see it.
I can take it. We'll do some other bits so they can get access to this on your and our website, so they can get access to all this stuff. So that's it. Look. Oh, it's even so. Although it's only one module, its size is the same as the old MCBs as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So the original one we launched back 2 years ago was like a piggyback device. So it was a 2-module device, and then obviously we've brought the technology on, and that's now down to a single module device, and it's also single height. So that's exactly the same size as an MCB. Yeah. And we brought that in the same technologies.
Must admit, that's the impressive bit that you've managed to get it down to that module.
It is, yeah.
And the height bit is the big bit for me, because a lot of people are saying they don't mind them, but it's taking up the way that they would generally wire in the top of the consumer unit, but that wouldn't, would it?
Yeah. So again, the consumer units, when we move from insulated to from insulated consumer units to metal consumer units, we actually made the metal consumer units slightly higher, about 30 mil in height.
Oh, okay.
And then obviously GAP now coped with the smaller devices. You've got a lot of wiring room within the consumer units across the platforms.
So is this still using the original criteria for its AFDD function? There were 5 criteria that it had to meet.
It is, yeah. So it uses the Siemens SARC technology, and that goes through like a quadrant. I know you use it on one of your slides.
We have, yes, we've managed to use that. Yeah, if you don't mind, we'll nick it and use it wherever we can.
It's quite impressive how it discriminates against commonly occurring arcs, such as light switches and motor commutators. It's very clever how it does that.
Yeah, so it knows what's a safe arc and what's a non-safe arc and when to trip. And within that criteria, that 5 criteria, depending on the frequency and the length of...
It's pretty amazing, I think it does that.
Yeah.
And also, these bits of kit, they self-test and stuff like that, don't they?
They do, yeah. So they run a self-testing facility, and that does it at different times. So believe it's 15 hours, so a cycle of every 15 hours. So it will do it every day, and we do it over a 15-hour cycle. So it's at different periods during the day when you've got different loads on the circuit.
The cycle of the day. And because we're often asked about testing them. They say, what do we do? Do we test them? How do we test them? So what is the process? How do you
so effectively, within the arc fault device, you've got an it's MCB, RCD, and RCBO. So the RCBO side, basically, when you install the device, you test it exactly the same as an RCBO.
Yep.
So that's your testing facility, and then it does its self-testing cycles. And then you've got your test button, the same as what you would have an RCD or an RCD, so you can trip it on RCBO. So you're doing your 6 monthly tests.
Or not.
Or not.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you suggest that I don't do them?
Well, our survey of thousands of electricians, and 2 so far have admitted to doing that.
But the clever part about it is there's different scenarios. So if you get a trip and you go to reset the device, it will go through a diagnostics, and there's a little LED window at the bottom of the device.
I just noticed that, yeah.
So where the test button is, that is actually a visual aid as well. So when the device is operational, it's red and it's running. But if you had a fault condition and you reset the device, it'd go through a diagnostic, so it'd tell you whether it's a serial or a parallel arc, a overvoltage, or an RCD fault. So when you come into diagnostics and actually check what the issue is, you're halfway there with diagnosing what the type of fault condition is.
Clever. One thing I've just noticed that I'm sitting here having a play with, you've actually sorted out how it connects to the buzz bar as well, haven't you? To the DIN rail.
We have.
You've got that on the bottom there. So all you're doing is you're pulling the plastic apart and it sits on the DIN rail catch better. Because that used to be an absolute pain, especially when I swap just one out. You have to absolutely take the whole board apart just to get one MCB out. But you've cracked it here, haven't you?
Yeah, so there's subtle differences against the platform, against Wylex and Crabtree. Crabtree have the clicking star breaker range, and then you have the Wylex, which is DIN mounted. We have the cone buzz bars and the fixed buzz bars. And the change in the technology of the connection points on them, rather than having people putting screwdrivers in and popping the device.
That's it. That's what I used to do.
Yeah, on these now, effectively, it's finger, so you can pull the device up and it clicks off the back of the DIN rail.
Really good, isn't it?
So you don't have to worry about. And the used to be the absolute pain was you wanted just to change one MCB and you lost the whole lot. The buzz bar drop out. All the time you were doing this live, so you'd have the whole buzz bar drop out when it's live, and you think, "Oh my God, what's going on here?" And arcing and sparking across all over the place. No, of course it wasn't live. I'm joking. No, definitely not live.
Also, off the back of that, what we've done is we changed the termination type. So that's actually a cage termination now. So it actually comes down on the device. So it's a no miss buzz bar terminal. So if you're working high level, you can't miss it. So it's got to be in to make a good connection, which again improves
massively. Because you do get them where you put that cone buzz bar back up and you just have one. You think it's nice and tight, but it's tight on itself, not tight on the buzz bar, isn't it?
Yeah, and
you've got that technology as well in there.
Yeah, so that again just helps with stopping with loose connections and dangerous situations that can occur from them.
Do those sorts of innovations come from feedback that you give, or do they just come out of the labs anyway?
They come, Electrium as a group of companies and individual brands, we have our own test labs, so we have UCAS standards and ACAS standards, and we're always trying to develop, Electrium is a manufacturer product, we don't factor the product, so we design and build it, so we're always trying to move the market on and improve the products as we go through.
I've been to your research, that was up at Manchester, towards Manchester, we went up there, Yeah, we went there. That's some years ago. That was on the way to another event that we were doing at the particular time. But we popped it. But you said that's getting busier up there now. You were telling me last night, weren't you? They're starting to do more here in the UK than ever before.
Yeah. So some of the products within the group of companies. So if you go onto the wiring accessory side of the business, we're starting to bring more stuff back in house. So if you look at the decorative ranges, we're bringing that back in house.
The polished roped brass.
No, showing your age.
I've done a job where I put a load of it in, and recently I got a job taking it all out. I didn't want it anymore, so I'm going to weigh it in. So there's all that's going to happen back in the UK, is it? Up at Manchester or some of your other sites?
Yeah, over at Wivenshaw, Hindley Green, and the Manchester plants.
Yeah, great. And you've got one more bit of kit to show us,
haven't
you?
So the other device there is one of the surge protection devices. Again, it's coming in alongside the regulation.
Yes, we see it mentioned in our regs a lot now.
Again, we've had the technology when we first come to market a couple of years ago with this, it was a 2-module device.
Yes,
these are Type 2. We managed to work on that and improve the technologies in there and shrink it down to the same size as a breaker again.
That's great, isn't it?
So
it's a one module now. So one module,
Yep.
one way out of your consumer unit is taken up with the Type 2 SPD.
It's a Type 2, and the beauty about the product as well, it's got a really high withstand and a clamp down. So we're working at sort of 20 kA on that device as well. And it's internally fused up to 100 amps.
Oh, brilliant. So you don't have to worry about that. So a lot of people we see now do have to put a 16 amp MCB or link it through. You don't with yours.
Yeah, so you don't need a 32 amp breaker to run this device. So it keeps it single module, keeps additional ways in the boards. And it's all about,
brilliant.
Lots of clients I speak to, it's all about future proofing.
Yes.
Lots of people are moving more towards RCBOs rather than RCDs for that more ways in the
We
boards.
saw it today. Hands went up when we asked the question, didn't
and
they?
the regs are now talking about RCBOs.
Yeah, and again, off the back of the regs as well, with the prosumers and people generating themselves and solar PV, car chargers, all these additional things going into distribution, it's got to be managed. So it's future-proofing these to allow as many ways spare in the board.
And it's nice that,
as many ways you can,
that it's a modular change as well, because they do wear out, don't they?
It is, yeah. So again, it is important to look at them clamp down figures, so the high withstand, the low clamp downs as well, for the longevity of the product. But again, if the product does come to point, you've got an indication flag on there.
Says any red replace.
Yes.
So they are perishable devices, aren't they?
Well, yeah,
they're meant to
they're
be used
absorbing energy. That's right.
To do it. So now, what's the green bit on top of here for, mate? So,
I wonder that.
So is this you giving some sort of output on there?
Yeah, so that's an auxiliary. So if you really wanted to wire it into an LED or a buzzer, you can.
So you know that it's ready to. Yeah.
Because I mean, a lot of these things, they're great, and I can see the green indicators now, but when I install it and close the lid on the consumer unit, I can't see it anymore, can I?
Yeah.
So that's to have the ability then.
Yeah, well, I've seen lots of distribution boards where they've got an LED on the outside.
Yeah, that's what this is for. Allow you to go to that, wouldn't it? It looks an absolute fantastic bit of kit, and I know full well that you guys have been working really hard to make sure not only that you're first to market, but you've got something that is worthwhile being in the market. So this is absolutely brilliant.
And we're always trying to push the boundaries, with us being a manufacturer. We're always trying to design and look at the next thing and where we're going with the product to improve the market and safety.
So you've been displaying this at Tech Talks. How you found the Tech Talks?
Fantastic. Really good events.
You've got to say that because you're here, aren't you?
I am, yeah. They're really good venues. Really good venues.
We found some good venues, and last night was all right as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
For those who can't tell, he's suffering a little bit today.
I've not done too bad today, to be fair. I have had about 6 pints of water. It's your fault.
Back to the subject.
Oh, okay, right.
What's the interest been? Because we're talking about about surge protection devices.
Yeah.
What's the interest been when they come out of the talks?
The interest has been really good. So when you guys have covered about surge and arc fault because we get a flood at the table.
It works,
yeah, it does. So you must be covering something right. So yeah, obviously the guys they're keen to understand the technologies out there. I think a lot of people are taken back by the devices that we got being small, individual size, wiring room, the compatibility as well, and then the differences between the Crabtree versions and the Wylex versions being the Lodestars. And the interchangeability of the product. So yeah, it's really good interest.
So are you finding that you're still selling lots of split load consumer units, or nowadays is it really people going over to these RCBOs? Yeah,
you've seen, I suppose, since the start of the First Amendment and the 18th Edition Amendment, you've seen a slow phase in, I suppose, more to either high integrity type boards away from a dual RCD type board, and then moving on, I suppose, as the regulation comes through, and more in Amendment 2, moving on to main switch RCBOs. Again, it's future proofing, more ways in the boards, wiring room, individual circuits again, easier more to identify.
Yeah, we've seen a lot more of it. I mean, every time we ask the question, Dave, more hands go up, don't
Today it was a sea of hands that went up for CBS.
Nearly all the people around here are converted already.
And again, one of the regs talking about the changes from AC to A-type.
Oh, yeah. How's that affected you guys?
Yeah, it has been, I suppose it's a market shift. You've seen more devices going into the home that are having DC, so you could potentially have some sort of blinding on some of the devices. So you've seen the market move into more A-type devices. So
you're going to be absolutely swamped, aren't you, with people with absolutely swamped, aren't you, with people with demand for those?
Yeah.
Because at the minute they've been fitting AC for years. I mean, I know that you actually, as a manufacturer, you've made the change quite a while, haven't you, to start to embrace the Type A instead of Type ACs?
Yeah, we have. Obviously, with the size of the business and the turnover and the quantities of products that we have, we've had to start that change quite early on to face some of that product through the marketplace. So we've done that, and as well as coming on to the change from dual RCD high integrity type boards and the regulation reference in regards to 30 milliamp and meeting the requirements as
30% of the 30 milliamps.
Yeah. So it's almost people are going, well, if I go to main switch RCBO, you've covered that anyway.
You're
separate, independent, future-proofed. So that's where the shift has come from.
You're going to get a lot more demand now, because when people are doing their EICRs, finding AC type, they're going to say, you might have to have them out and put some Type A's in. So you're going to be flogging a fair few of them, mate.
I hope so.
So do I.
For all them beers.
Right, well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been
welcome.
a fantastic Tech Talk, fantastic podcast for everyone to
really
listen
good.
to as well.
Really interesting.
And thank you for listening to another CF Tech Talking podcast.